What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we need to take another look at these One Piece TCG starter decks, because I hate to say it, these are getting very, very, very silly at this point. Now, I do want to point out, and I think this is very important before we get going, I've told you this before, and I shall tell you this again. These are going to come back. We are very much expecting reprint of these. They're going to keep reprinting them. I've made this point quite a lot, but let me make it again. This is the beginning of a card game. If you want your card game to be successful, you have to keep printing the early sets. Because if you don't print out, if you don't keep printing the early starter decks and the early sets, you don't hook people, and as I've said before, in the early days of a TCG, your goal isn't to sell product. Selling product is very much secondary. Your goal is to hook people. You don't want to sell Romance Dawn and the early starter decks. You want to sell all of the starter decks and every set for years to come. You want nerds like me to come along and be buying box after box of set after set. You don't want somebody to go and buy a box of Romance Dawn. That's really not the goal. It is about hooking people for the long run. So we're going to be talking about what's going on with these starter decks, what the prices are doing, etc., etc. But please, please do bear in mind, as I've said a bunch of times, unless you really need them now, wait. Because they're going to come back. If you are a red player right now, by all means buy the red starter deck. But maybe wait on the other three because they're going to be reprinted later on. With one exception, we'll get to the exception, some of these aren't coming back. But save the ones you don't need to play with now for when the reprints come, and just enjoy playing the ones that you need to get for the time being. So first port of call then, we look at these, we got 4 of them, we head on over to TCG Player. It's not the end of the story, but it's a good starting point. And we can see that the starter decks range from starter deck 3, the blue one at $26, up to the red starter deck, the Luffy starter deck, the Straw Hat Crew, which is about $43. And you'll notice that they're all pretty similar, except the Luffy one, which is the most expensive. Now, you probably know this, but let me spell it out for you now. We are in a situation at the moment where red is the best deck. So obviously, the red starter deck and the cards that you need from within the red starter deck, because there are some of them there, that is always going to make, at the moment, the red starter deck the most expensive of them. But that's because in OPO1 and OPO2, in those formats, red is the best deck. There is every possibility that in the not-too-distant future, green becomes the best deck. And now all of a sudden we've got some decks from starter deck 2, the green starter deck, which go jumping in price, etc. So yes, the red starter deck is the most expensive, and I know it's got the whole Luffy factor that hasn't escaped me, but it is worth bearing in mind things do change pretty quickly, and I think it is fair to assume that, yeah, the red starter deck is the best at the moment, the most expensive, because it is the best of them, but that will change as the metagame changes. Don't assume it's always going to be red. So okay, going over on TCG Player, that's where they are, but you may notice that all 4 of them were sold out. You can't just go on TCG Player and buy them right now. They are, as it stands at the moment, they are sold out, they are gone. Now, they're not sold out everywhere. Try your local game stores. One of the problems with online shopping is that everybody has access to online shopping. So if we see a store which is putting these starter decks up at retail, and let's be super clear, retail is $12. That's what they should be sold for. I know there are a bunch of people out there who are going to sell them for more. I know there are some stores that are going to try and get as much money as they possibly can out of them. That's not the point. The retail is $12. You should be spending $12. That is what you should be spending on these. I'm not saying you'll be able to find them everywhere for $12, but I absolutely 100% am saying that that is how much you should be paying. That is the retail price of these products. Good. Good. And like I say, I've seen these in stock in places near me in the not too distant past, but the problem with online retailing is as soon as they go up online for $12, they just get snapped up straight away, and then they're out of stock again. And that's a bit of a problem. And then you have, if we have a look, there's literally 2 listings here side by side over on Google. We got Living Realms selling the blue starter deck for £11. Good on them. That's nice. But then we've got Jet Cards selling it for £20. And there might be a reason for this, let's be clear. It may well be that Jet Cards had to get it from a different supplier, so their costs were increased. That might have happened. But this is the kind of thing you see in this situation where, you know what? That's a bit weird that you've got the same products, probably bought from the same place, and yet they're being sold at vastly different prices. Frankly, ladies and gentlemen, not a huge fan. And like I've said, make a note of the stores that were looking after you, that were not selling above retail when they had the chance to do so. Make sure that those are the stores that get your business in the future, because those are the stores we really should be supporting. The ones that knew they could have ripped us off, but made a conscious decision not to do so. We like those stores. So if we head on over to eBay then, now you've got to be so careful searching on eBay. Because when I have a look over on eBay, the vast majority of the listings I see coming up quickly, they are Japanese listings. And that is a little bit of a problem. I go and have a look. What are the first two listings I find? Yeah, they're for Japanese starter decks. And the Japanese starter decks have the same cards and the same cover and all of that. They come in tiny little baby boxes rather than the big chunky giant boxes we get. But they are essentially the same starter deck. At a glance, it is very easy to get them confused. Please be extremely careful when buying off eBay, because a lot of people are selling the Japanese version, but they are putting Japanese right, both of the ones on the screen, they put Japanese right at the end of the advert. That's not a coincidence, incidentally. That is to try and trap people who don't read the whole title, put it right at the end, almost kind of hide it there. But then if you complain, well, we put Japanese in the title. And they did, but it's not a coincidence they're putting it right at the end of the title, and don't think that it is. So do please make sure you look for English. And unfortunately, if we go on and have a little bit of a look at the English prices on eBay, they're not much better, unfortunately. Couple of the first ones that pop up. We got a purple one coming up for $36. We've got green for $25. And that's the thing. The prices at the moment are varying quite wildly. Finding any of them for $25 is pretty good at the moment. But you're not always going to be able to do that, unfortunately. They're not always going to be that cheap. And certainly, the Luffy starter deck, the red starter deck, it really is the worst among them. I mean, there's one that eBay thinks here is a great price for $50. This is a $12 product. So no, eBay, I'm sorry. I don't think $50 is a great price. I actually think it's 4 times retail, and I think everybody should try and avoid paying that, quite frankly. But because, I've said it once, but let's say it again, that is not a great price, ladies and gentlemen. That is not a great price at all. And if we look specifically for the Straw Hat Crew deck, you'll notice that, a lot of these, unfortunately, are being bid on. But, we got 40, 45, 45, and these are amongst the better listings up there. Unfortunately, trying to find the Luffy deck in stock, you're going to be paying $40 minimum. The others you can sometimes pick up for $25 or around there if you sit there and really have a look. But the Luffy starter deck, honestly, getting it for less than $40 is going to be a big deal. Until you wait for the reprint. And when the reprint comes, there are going to be a bunch of shops that take the reprint and try selling it for the same price as they were before the reprint. Ignore those shops, find the good ones, and keep supporting the good ones even when stock is plentiful. And that's not for the super pre-release ones. The super pre-release decks, they be dumb. Because if we have a look on here, right, over on TCG Player, we can see that the market prices, we've got the blue one for $75, purple for $107, green for $119, and the Luffy starter deck for $240. That, ladies and gentlemen, is absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. That is an absurd amount of money. But you will notice they are all also out of stock. And you might be thinking, come on, Wassy. Nobody would actually pay that. Well, let's look at the last 3 solds, shall we? $300, $280, $260. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, people would actually pay that. And when you look at the most recent solds, they're, yeah, that whole 240 I told you, that's a bit of a bargain. That is actually quite a bit of a bargain. And if we go on over to eBay, yeah, it's not any better, I'm afraid. There is one that is currently being bid on. It's up to $175 with 27 bids. There are 2 days left. That's going to end quite a lot higher than that, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen. Quite a lot higher. There are a couple of buy it nows on there, but they're $400 and $500, which again is frankly absurd. So yeah, this is a ridiculously expensive deck. We might do a video about the super pre-release ones properly later, but this is, yeah, getting a little bit silly. So there you have it. The regular starter decks are not cheap. Red is the worst of them. The super pre-release are ridiculous. And again, red is the worst of them. But now it's over to you guys. Tell me if you've been able to pick any of these up, regular or super pre-release. Tell me how excited you are for the game. Tell me if you're waiting for the reprints. Tell me anything you want to tell me in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @LeWasi. That's where we talk about One Piece and card games and a whole bunch of other stuff. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord and chat with us, all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing is always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wasi Plays.